very good morning to you from wherever you're tuning in from, and welcome to your Sunday premier political show, Inside Politics, where we review the week's top governance developments and look into the crystal ball in a bid to anticipate how those developments will play out going forward. I'm Dennis Aseto, and I'm not alone. I'm joined by Mark Bichache, who is our guest host today, as he continues to have a discussion on the political matters in this country this week and how they will form political organizations and discussions in the future. We shall be having a plethora of guests who shall be discussing these issues a little bit later on the show. But before we get to that, just what are some of the political stories that shaped the conversation and the narrative this week? Now, Roads and Transport Cabinet Secretary Kipchumba Murkomen has dismissed the one man, one vote, one shilling debate, saying those advocating for it were enemies of the unity of Kenya. Speaking in Isiolo North, Murkomen said projects such as the 800 kilometers Nairobi-Moyale Road and the Lamu Port would not have been implemented. The CS said former President, the late Mwai Kibaki, had a grand dream for the development of the marginalized areas.
Hii debate ya kusema one man, one vote, 1 kilometer, 1 watt, wacha niwaambie, wengi wetu wa Kenya wengi wanaongea habari hiyo hawaelewi hata ni nini. Mimi nikiwa na Senator Fatuma na kwa siku hizo tukiwa na Governor Sakaja, Governor Mutula, tukiwa pia na Senator Aaron Cheruiyot, Senator Malala, siku hizo tulishikana wote tukasema sisi tunataka kuitwa Team Kenya. Wale wanasema ati tuweke pesa mingi pale fulani tuache pande zingine. Hawa ni adui ya umoja wa taifa. Na mimi sina uoga kusema hivyo. Kwa sababu kulikuwa na wengine hapo awali walikuwa wanasumbuka wanasema ati kabla fulani haitakikani kwa kaunti fulani. Lakini saa hii tukisema tuweke pesa Isiolo, sasa tujasema tupatie Turkana, Borana peke yao. Isiolo iko na kabila zote za Kenya. Na kila Mkenya ako na haki kuja kuishi Isiolo.
Very well, that is Kipchumba Murkomen as he discusses issues to do with the one man, one vote, 1 shilling that he is opposing. But the Deputy President, Gachagua, equally says that he shall continue with that conversation, saying that it is not about taking development or taking funds to others and denying others some, but it is a question of each and every person in this country getting their share of that money. And this as President William Ruto has convened a meeting that would see members of the UDA meet to discuss the issues within the party. This meeting was actually called yesterday by President William Ruto. Here is that story.
That war of words and political supremacy battles have rocked the ruling coalition Kenya Kwanza, and they have been reading from different scripts is no secret. Pushed to the wall with the unending public display of dirty linen, President William Ruto has called for a crisis meeting as he seeks to put his house in order. The meeting may have taken place as soon as today, Friday, but he's away in Egypt after touring South Korea in the last week and is set to arrive tonight. That meeting is now scheduled to take place on Monday at State House, Nairobi. Ahead of that, a National Executive Committee meeting has been convened for tomorrow, Saturday. The meetings are taking place amid dissatisfaction and discontent from a section of Kenya Kwanza elected leaders over several issues. According to sources, all Kenya Kwanza legislators and government officers are scheduled to attend the meeting to iron out the outstanding issues.
Our Heavenly Father, we want to thank you for this meeting.
Ruto's cabinet, as well as the leaders in the party, have been split down the middle over the ban of mogoka by counties in the coastal region. The move has been backed by several cabinet secretaries, among them Defense CS Eden Duale, as well as Gender CS Aisha Jumwa. However, Agriculture CS Mythical Inturi is not backing the move, this forming part of the agenda on how they will overcome it to avoid a further split in the cabinet.
Hatutaki mogoka pwani. Hatutaki sumu inaletewa vijana wetu. Sisi twalipa bursaries. Rais hii asikie. Hii pesa ni ya serikali. Tuenda kuwalipia kina nani? Kama watoto wetu watakuwa wamekuwa mazombi, wako kwenye vibaraza, hawafikiri vizuri.
And that's not all. The Finance Bill 2024 has rattled Kenyans and left the government with a hot potato as the Ruto government pushes its second budget post the election in 2022. President Ruto's administration stands accused of making lives unbearable, especially with the proposals made should the Finance Bill 2024 pass. This has also seen legislators in UDA differ on whether amendments should be introduced and to what clauses.
You guys want us to operate on subsidy? You guys want us to operate on...
The meeting comes as the government sides engages in an ending war of words following reports of a fallout between President Ruto and his deputy Gachagua. This has seen Ruto's allies attack DP Gachagua and his allies and vice versa. The wars roping in even the Prime Cabinet Secretary Musalia Mudavadi. Sources tell KTN News that official WhatsApp groups have been reduced to battlegrounds where different camps have taken at each other using very unkind and accusatory languages without regard to the top leadership presence.
I want to encourage you, as members of parliament, to represent your constituencies effectively, but to also move around Kenya so that you understand and discharge your responsibilities.
Kila mtu amechaguliwa kwake. Wewe ukiona unataka keses, goja next election, toka kwako, kuja uombe kura hapa, keses. What we don't want is political tourism.
Hatutaki tulete ukabila kwa Kenya na bali Mheshimiwa Rais ndio anasimamia taifa nzima, Afrika nzima kwa mambo ya amani.
Mtu yeyote ambaye anakiuka uchaguzi ambaye ilifanyika kukosea Deputy President heshima, anakosea wale watu walimchagua.
The meeting will seek to cool down the rising political temperatures that have been witnessed in various meetings. The pending elections are also a huge issue as the battle lines are drawn. The Nairobi election was pushed to Monday amid a fiery contest that could potentially divide the party with the leader's favorites apparent. This will be the second meeting to be called by President in 2024 to discuss government agenda. However, this time round, the meeting comes as wrangles in President Ruto's house persist, only this time more intense and publicly played out. Daniel Kariuki, KTN News, Nairobi.
Now, the National Executive meeting of the UDA happened yesterday, but the parliamentary group meeting that was to happen Monday has been postponed to the 17th of this month, and part of that postponement is because of the division within the party, and these will form part of the conversation that we are having this morning as Mark Bichache, our guest host, will be having that with his panel. Mark Bichache, over to you as you have this discussion with your panel.
Thank you so much, Aseto, for introducing me. And it is a privilege to be sitting here as guest host in Kenya's premier political governance and economic show, Inside Politics. With me today, I have Meshek Odede, who is a political analyst to my right. Joining us via Zoom is Joseph Shimeha, a governance and political analyst, who is joining us via Zoom. Can see Bwana Anthony Samba is being mic'd and will join us shortly. Now, let me start right here in studio. Meshek, I am getting deja vu. It feels like Uhuru and Ruto all over again. Is this really a split? Is it a diversionary tactic away from the talk about the economics? What is going on in UDA? Is it real? Is it deja vu? Should Kenyans prepare for Kenyatta versus Ruto in Rigathi versus Ruto?
Thank you, Mark. You know, they say what goes around comes around. Although sometimes I believe what goes around just go. Yes. And sometimes never come back. Yeah. But this is a reality with us. I think Rigiji, or the deputy president, is part of the William Ruto's team during Uhuru Kenyatta. So he might have seen that you don't have to fix it if it's working. So it worked for them. So he doesn't have to fix it. He still want to go ahead with it because it worked then, it will work now. And I think there is also a reality that is coming in, just like both of us on the table here knows. During campaigns, there are things, sometimes we get excited, including with the crowds cheering us and people are charged to a certain direction, and then you realize you have said so much that in the office you cannot now actually fulfill them, or you now mirror them to the reality and you realize they are two worlds apart. So there's only one way for a politician to come back. Behave as if you have completely differed with the man in charge, so that at the end of the day, if we are coming from Mount Kenya, for example, we might not see you as the man who betrayed us. We might see the other person as actually the man who betrayed us, because the things you promised on his behalf. You promised with all of us knowing that he is the man in charge. But if your hands are now tied, because that is how it worked for William Ruto. Much as we did this, we said this with Uhuru Kenyatta, but I was just the deputy. Like, what do you people think I could have done when the boss says no? So right now, he knows that deep down the hearts of Mount Kenya, they want this one man, one vote, one shilling thing. Whether it makes sense or not is a different debate. But that is what my people want. So as Rigiji, how do I look at them and tell them, this is never going to happen? It's not happening. So it is easy to say, I tried to fight for you guys, but you know I was number two. And constitutionally, my work is just to deputize the man. I am just a principal assistant. I am sent to meetings, and you know, there's just nothing I could do. So I'm seeing this happening. It's a reality.
That's very interesting. And just as I bring Shimeha on board, Shimeha, as a governance analyst, please take us through. Is this split that we are seeing between the president and his deputy, is it about one man, one shilling, one vote? Or is it something that is between them that is personal? Or is it a combination of these factors? And if you can, also tell us, what is this one man, one shilling, one vote? Why are leaders saying that it's going to divide us and others are saying it's the most fair thing that can happen in this country?
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we are having trouble hearing Shimeha. Let me just transfer that question to you, Bwana Samba, who's the CEO of the Kenya Young Parliamentarians Association. What is happening? Why is one shilling, one man, one vote? Why is it so emotive? And is this emotion coming from one man, one shilling, one vote? Or is it that the two big elephants in UDA are fighting?
Thank you, Mark, for having me, and good to see my good friend Meshach here. I think just to dive into the question, we must be able to assess it on the basis of context. You must understand the origin of the one man, one shilling, one vote was not yesterday. It is something that was an election issue when the campaigns were being done. And the proponents or the people who were fronting it included the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta. I think it was one of the prominent issues in the proposed BBI. But now, in as much as it never sailed through, it still remained as an issue that was dear to especially people from Mount Kenya region. So here you have Rigathi Gachagua, who, let me not put like was elected, but appointed as deputy president. Because he literally was given that.
But by law he was elected.
If you go to the legalese language,
it is one ticket. He was elected.
But in actual sense, you cannot politically assert that it was the pure election. You know, like the way William Ruto was elected. Because William Ruto had his own votes. You cannot say that it's Rigathi who galvanized the entire mountain block to vote for Ruto. That's my analysis. So building on that, so Rigathi comes into a space where he realizes that he's not been able to take the votes that Uhuru Kenyatta had, you know? And now he's at a place where he wants to catapult himself into the national stage and become a significant principal in forming political discourses. So how do you do that? You revisit the issues that Uhuru was speaking to that were dear to the people from the mountain. One such issue is the one man, one shilling, one vote. bring it up.
Yep.
So that now you gain prominence on the basis of, I'm trying to actually catapult your agenda into the political discourse. So I'm your fighter, I'm your warrior.
Yes.
So that now the Kikuyus begin to look at him as their champion, as their jaba, as so to speak. But you see now, the challenge Rigathi has, if you assess how the mounted politics has been organized. One, remember, he was only a one-term member of parliament. You cannot competently say he's a seasoned politician. There are others who are more seasoned than he is, who already had occupied the national stage. The likes of Kina Moses Kuria, Kina Alice Wahome, they are done already their 2 terms. So they're already on the national stage. So what do? You have to devise a strategy that catapults you into that space so that people discuss you probably at par with the main principles. And for him, he's doing quite well. For him to get even the likes of former Prime Minister discussing him, that Rigathi Gachagua, even just the mention, it means that there are things he's getting right. But again, he's also walking on a very thin line. Because unlike William Ruto during Kenyatta's presidency, William Ruto was an equal principle.
Yeah.
You would actually put it that way.
Yeah, he did come out as a
and even how
principle,
he
yes.
behaved when things looked tough is so different from how Rigathi is behaving. Because William, first of all, applied the principle of never outshine your master. So he always fought to be with, under the shadow of Uhuru, not trying to overshadow him. You remember even towards the general election, him being called Tanga Tanga and whatnot. And he embraced all that and said, there's no need of me trying to outstage my principle. So the risk that Rigathi maybe is exposing himself is, if at all Ruto now decides to unleash and fight him, I don't know how much he can survive. Because remember, first-term MP, you're yet to galvanize even Nyeri County, let alone the whole Mount Kenya. You're already having the likes of Ndindi Nyoro running away with Murang'a. You have Kiambu speaking their own language. So for you to actually be at the same space that Uhuru Kenyatta occupied, I think it ought to have required some little patience for you to first of all build your brand as a national leader. Then come back to your people and say, I have been embraced. And I think if he was a good student, he would have read the journey of William Ruto from when he launched his bid. Even before he declared interest for presidency, you can see Ruto as an MP trying to project himself as a bigger figure than just Rift Valley, because you remember it was called Kamasuta or something, the Kalenjin, Maasais, and him positioning himself to command more than just the Kalenjin. So those are lessons that probably the operatives around Rigathi should actually be looking at. But if you go head on with a sitting head of state, and I can tell you my own prediction, I actually feel like it's not Ruto who's poking him. It's actually operatives around the president who are the ones who are, probably mishandling him a little bit, and then him is overreacting.
But you raise quite pregnant issues, because number one, Kenya likes a rebel. Right, we like politicians who come out and shine, and that brings me to the question: this neck that happened yesterday, was it about elections, UDA elections, or was it about the tension that Limuru 3, 1 man, 1 shilling, and Rigathi's statement, which seemed to actually fly in the face of the president himself, sometimes contradicting him directly? Do you think that is the big issue?
I think the big issue to those two might be different. Right now, from where the deputy president sits, the big issue is Mount Kenya and how to stamp authority as undisputed kingpin for Mount Kenya. That is his big issue. The big issue for William Ruto is 2027 and how this country must appreciate what he has been able to do in the governance of the country for the past 5 years when we get to that place. These two big issues meet somewhere, because William Ruto need Mount Kenya to be part of the Kenya that will appreciate him in 2027 to say, you did very well and we're giving you another term, even though he has refused, that he was not elected to be re-elected. But these are unwritten rules. We both know them. In the days when we were growing up, there was kulikuwa na the chair that belongs to our dad. It was not written anywhere, but nobody was sitting on that chair. But we didn't have to have any constitution to know that this is dad's chair. No one sits there. And if you dare, they will look at you and not say anything. Just the look will tell you, I am doing something wrong. So much as the president has been once or twice somewhere saying I was not elected to be re-elected, that's a lie we all know. Every politician is elected to be re-elected, especially in the global south. So this issue of getting re-election needs to have Mount Kenya as part of it, because Mount Kenya played a huge role in getting this first term. So we cannot lie that he would not want them to be part of that team. But the Rigaji's big issue where he becomes the authoritative is what I think Anthony brought in. When William Ruto was quote unquote antagonizing the past regime in their era with Uhuru, William Ruto started by becoming the leader, undisputed leader of the Rift Valley. Like you could not despite that. Other people tried, but he made sure that he has the 99% of that team in his pocket. So it was easy, even if he was now playing down and playing loyal, but all that loyalty did not show any weakness, because at home, I know I am an undisputed leader for this community. This is where Rigiji misses. So Rigiji is now battling two fronts at the same time. In Mount Kenya, he has a group who sits somewhere in Limuru and saying we are charting our own path, while he is on the other side. And their path is actually going against this regime. Now, Rigiji does not have an authority on this table. If I want to be the kingpin of Mount Kenya, I will come to the table knowing that out there nobody is disputing that. So when I ask Mark, this is what we want in Mount Kenya, you will not challenge me and say, but your people, I mean, are different. This is what it is. You saw what happened, the comments that we got from the governor of Nyeri about Honorable Malala. We will remove you from this seat, because where you come from, we are not sure how much you brought in terms of where you come from, meaning you have not shown us that you deserve to be here. So this is the same thing that will happen to Rigiji if you go to the table with the president and you start negotiating things and the president thinks he has your people more than you have them. That's a big challenge. So the deputy president is in the middle of two war fronts, trying to stamp authority in the party to say, I brought a sizable number that you cannot dispute. But on the other side, he is also trying to ask those people that give me these numbers
so that it can work. Between a rock and a hard place, that is where the deputy president seems to be. Now, we need to take a break. We need to pay the bills. But when we come back, I want us to dive into the issue of whether one man, one shilling is economics, whether it is tribalism, and also, we will try and get Shimeha on the line so that he can give us his very intelligent and qualified statements. See you guys after the break.